$2.8 billion. I want you to just sit with that number for a second. Visualize it. That is roughly 19.5 billion RMB.
Right.
To put that in perspective, that's the GDP of a small island nation like Aruba. It's not a rounding error. It's a fortune.
It is.
And that is the amount that Adidas China allegedly lost to a massive marketing scandal involving kickbacks, fake contracts, and just corruption.
It's a figure so large it almost feels abstract. But when you actually start digging into the details, which is what we're doing today, it stops being about the money and starts being about the machine.
For theory, yeah.
We aren't just talking about, theft from a corporate vault. We are talking about money vanishing into the absolute black box of media buying.
Exactly. And usually when a story of this magnitude breaks a global giant like Adidas getting taken for a ride, you expect the industry to scream.
You expect panic.
Panic, yeah. Emergency board meetings across the globe. But looking at the sources we have today, specifically the reaction from people on the ground, it was quiet.
It was disturbingly quiet.
Yeah, the reaction wasn't shock. It was a collective shrug. It was people saying, yeah, we all knew this, or honestly, I'm surprised it took this long to come out. That reaction is what actually scared me into wanting to do this deep dive. It implies this isn't a heist. It's business as usual.
And that is exactly why we're focusing on this today. We're basing this discussion on a really biting, insightful piece of writing from an industry insider named Coolio Yang.
Let's talk about him for a second, because his perspective really shapes this whole narrative.
Right. So Coolio Yang published this analysis on LinkedIn. He's an outsider looking in. He's an operator. He's someone who has been in the trenches.
Right.
He describes himself as watching the industry morph from marketing, which implies, creativity and strategy, into what he calls financial engineering.
Financial engineering. It sounds so sophisticated, like something you'd hear on Wall Street. But in this context, it's basically a polite way of saying systemic fraud.
It is, but it's also technically accurate. His argument is that the Chinese media ecosystem has structural flaws that don't just allow for this corruption, they essentially demand it. He's pulling back the curtain on how the sausage is made, and frankly, it's pretty unappetizing.
So our mission for this deep dive isn't to gossip about Adidas. We aren't here to point fingers at specific executives.
No.
We are using this scandal as a masterclass. We need to understand how the Chinese media market operates differently from the West, why those differences turn ad agencies into banks. And how you can spend $1 million on ads and effectively buy nothing but your own destruction.
And if you are doing business in China, or if you're just fascinated by how global markets actually work under the hood, this is a mechanic you have to understand. Because, as Yang points out, Adidas wasn't an anomaly. They were just the biggest whale to get harpooned.
So let's start with the ecosystem, because I think for a lot of listeners, especially those used to Western markets, the assumption is, well, an ad is an ad. You pay Google, you pay Meta, you get a dashboard, you see the clicks. Why is China's ecosystem so murky that $2.8 billion can just disappear?
You have to throw out your mental model of the Western internet. In the US or Europe, the digital landscape is somewhat fragmented, but it's connected. You have the open web, you have search, you have distinct social platforms. In China, it's the era of the super app.
The famous walled gardens.
Exactly. You have these massive ecosystems like ByteDance, which owns Douyin Tencent with WeChat, Alibaba. These aren't just apps. They are operating systems for daily life. And they do not talk to each other.
Right, the data's all siloed.
Data doesn't flow freely between them. This fragmentation creates the first layer of opacity. But the real issue, the one Yang highlights as the root of the evil, is the pricing structure itself.
He talks about opaque pricing. But isn't all ad pricing a bit opaque? I mean, nobody really knows how the Facebook algorithm prices a click down to the penny.
True, but in the West, we've moved toward what we call programmatic buying.
Let's define that for everyone.
Sure. Programmatic buying is automated. There's a bidding system. You can see a clearing price. If you bid $5 for an ad slot, you know why you won or lost. It's relatively transparent.
Okay.
Yang explains that in China, the rate card, the official published price list for ads, is essentially fiction.
Fiction?
It's an anchor for negotiation, but a meaningless one. The sticker price might be 100 RMB, but the agencies are negotiating massive volume-based discounts behind the scenes. We are talking 50, 60, sometimes 80% off.
Okay, so that's just good business for the agency, right? They buy wholesale, sell retail. That's how Walmart works.
In theory, yes. That's arbitrage. But in this specific ecosystem, the gap between the official price and the real price is so wide that it creates a massive dark zone.
Hmm.
The client thinks they're paying market rate or maybe getting a slight discount, but the agency is paying pennies on the dollar to the platform. The margin, the profit the agency keeps, becomes the primary goal, not the performance of the ad.
So the incentive isn't get the best ad slot for the client. It's buy the cheapest inventory with the biggest discount so we can pocket the spread.
Precisely. But there's a second structural factor that I think is even more damaging. Yang calls it the extended payment cycle, but let's call it what it really is, the cash flow trap.
I read this part 3 times because it seemed insane. He says, big brands in China don't pay their bills for months.
It is standard practice. If you're a massive multinational brand in China, you might dictate payment terms of 3, 6, or even 12 months. You essentially tell your agency, do the work now, spend the money now, and we will pay you next year.
But wait, the agency has to buy the ad space from Douyin or WeChat now. Do those platforms wait for payment?
Absolutely not. The tech giants demand payment up front or on very short terms. So you do the math. The agency pays the platform today.
And the client pays the agency in 6 months.
Right.
So the agency is financing the client. They are acting as a bank.
You hit the nail on the head. And this changes the hiring criteria completely. If you are a brand manager, you stop looking for the agency with the best creative directors or the smartest data strategists.
You look for the agency with the deepest pockets.
Yes. You hire the one who can float you 50 million RMB for half a year.
Which feels like the first step toward disaster. If
Yeah.
you hire a bank instead of a marketer, you shouldn't be surprised when they start acting like financial engineers.
And that is the perfect segue to the scam itself. Because when an agency is squeezed like this, forced to be a bank, forced to chase margins, they start looking for creative ways to guarantee their return. Yang lays out an extreme example in the text that is frankly breathtaking in its audacity.
The inventory buyback scheme. Let's walk through this slowly because when I first read it, I thought there is no way this works.
It works, and it's a perfect loop of deception.
Okay, set the scene. I'm a big sneaker brand. I give my agency, let's say, $1 million to run a campaign for my new running shoe.
Right. In a healthy market, the agency takes a fee, maybe 15%, and spends the rest buying video spots or banner ads to show your shoe to runners. Simple.
Right, that's the job.
But in the financial engineering model, the agency looks at that $1 million and thinks, buying ads is risky. Maybe people won't click. Maybe the client will be mad at the results. I can do something better.
So what do?
They take your marketing budget, and instead of buying ads, they go out and buy your shoes.
Wait, they use my ad budget to buy my own inventory.
Yes, they secretly purchase the client's product. Then, and this is the kicker, they take that inventory and dump it. They sell it through unauthorized resellers, private domain group chats, or gray market channels at a massive discount. Let's say 50% off.
Hold on, let me check the logic here. They spent $1 million buying the shoes. They sell them for half price. They only have $500,000 cash back in hand. They've lost half the money.
They've lost half the money.
How on earth is this a win for the agency?
It's a win because of the report they send you. At the end of the month, they present a beautiful PowerPoint to the client that says, great news, we ran the campaign and look at the conversion data. We generated $1 million in sales.
Oh, wow. And the client, the brand manager, looks at their internal sales dashboard and sees, hey, we did sell $1 million worth of shoes this month.
Exactly. The numbers match. The client sees a one-to-one return on investment, or ROI. They spent $1 million, they made $1 million, the marketing director gets a bonus, the agency gets a pat on the back.
But the agency still has that $500,000 cash they got from dumping the shoes on the side.
And they simply pocket it. That is their fee.
They didn't run a single ad.
Not one. They just shuffled money around and took a 50% cut.
That is, well, legally that feels like fraud. But strategically it sounds catastrophic because think about the fallout.
The fallout is nuclear. Yang is very clear on this. Sure, the sales numbers look okay for that quarter, but think about what actually happened to the business. Number one, you didn't reach a single new customer. Your brand awareness is 0.
And number 2, you just flooded the market with your own product at 50% off.
Exactly. If I'm a legitimate retailer trying to sell those sneakers at full price, and suddenly they're popping up on third-party apps for half off, I'm furious. I might cancel my orders with you.
And the customers. If I see the shoe for $50, I'm never paying $100 again. You've trained me to wait for the discount.
You have effectively paid an agency $1 million to devalue your own brand. It is a death spiral disguised as a successful campaign.
It's incredible that this happens at scale. But Yang argues this isn't just about rogue criminals. He breaks this down into what he calls the three structural pillars of failure.
Right.
This scam is just the symptom. The disease is the system itself.
Right. And we've touched on the first pillar already, capital over capability.
The idea that the deepest pockets win the contract.
Yang mentions he knows small agencies whose entire competitive advantage is just, we can wait a year to get paid. That's not a marketing strategy, that's a lending strategy. And the danger here is fragility. If one link in the chain breaks, say a supplier goes bankrupt or the client delays payment by another month, the whole house of cards collapses.
Which brings us to the second pillar, the scale trap, or what Yang calls the race to the bottom. This involves the big agency networks.
Right. This addresses the why regarding the big holding companies. These large networks use group buying to get those ultra-low rates we mentioned earlier.
Right.
They aggregate hundreds of clients' budgets to negotiate with the platforms. In theory, this sounds good. We have buying power.
Buying power usually means better efficiency for the client.
Usually. But in this specific Chinese context, Yang argues the incentives are misaligned. The agency's goal isn't client success. It is securing cheaper inventory so they can profit from the spread. So they are incentivized to buy the cheapest, lowest quality traffic possible, junk banners, bot traffic, hidden placements, just to maximize their margin.
So the client thinks they're getting premium reach because they hired a big global agency, but they are actually getting the bottom of the barrel because that's where the agency makes the most profit.
Correct. And because the agency is focused on trading media rather than planning it, the service quality degrades. Yang notes that clients end up paying for cheap traffic but getting zero strategic attention.
And the irony is because the big agency isn't doing any actual strategy, the client has to go out and hire another agency, a boutique strategy firm, to do the thinking.
So you are paying twice. Once for the cheap, ineffective traffic, and once for a strategy that might not even get executed properly because the media buying agency is just chasing margins.
It really is a broken system.
Yeah.
And that leads to the third pillar, which I think is the most philosophical of the three, the ROI mirage.
This is the one that really indicts the clients, not just the agencies. Yang argues that many companies treat media buying like stock trading.
Right.
You invest $100, you expect to get $120 back in immediate sales. You pocket the $20 difference.
I mean, the CFO would say that sounds logical. It's business.
For financial instruments, yes. But media acts on human psychology. It drives intent, awareness, long-term reputation. Those things don't always result in a sale today. If I see a car ad, I don't buy the car 10 seconds later. But I might buy it 6 months later because that ad planted a seed.
But the system we just described, the 3-month reporting cycles, the pressure for numbers, doesn't allow for planting seeds.
Exactly. If you force the agency to prove immediate ROI, like that one-to-one return in the sneaker scam, you force them to cheat. You effectively tell them, if you don't show me a sale today, you're fired.
So they fake the sale?
They do the buyback scheme. Or they buy bot traffic that clicks buttons but never buys.
So this obsession with seeing immediate sales numbers on a spreadsheet is actually what creates the demand for the fake performance. We are lying to ourselves because the truth, that branding takes time, is too uncomfortable.
Precisely. It's the ROI mirage. It looks like water, but it's just sand.
Okay, so if I'm a brand manager listening to this or an executive looking at expanding into China, I'm probably sweating. The deck seems stacked.
It does.
But Yang doesn't just admire the problem. He does offer a path forward.
He does. And the pivot he suggests is moving from media buying to what he calls content channel fit.
Basically, stop obsessing over the price of the ad and start obsessing over where it lives and what it says.
That's right. He gives some really specific examples of platform nuance in China. You cannot just take one video asset and blast it across every Chinese app. That fails.
Let's break down the big three he mentions. Douyin, Red Note, Xiaohongshu, and Bilibili. Start with Douyin.
Okay, Douyin. This is the Chinese ancestor of TikTok. Yang says this is for mainstream, fast-paced consumption. It's an algorithmic feed.
Right.
The content here needs to be high impact, information dense, and broadly appealing. It's about exploding a topic.
Okay. Contrast that with Red Note or Xiaohongshu. I've heard this described as Instagram meets Pinterest.
That's a decent comparison, but Red Note is much more research-driven. It's where the key opinion leaders, or KOLs and style enthusiasts, live. The vibe here is detailed reviews, seeded content, aesthetic aspiration. Users come here to search for answers. What is the best moisturizer for winter? How do I style these shoes?
So a flashy 15-second sneaker ad that works on Douyin would fail here.
Completely. On Red Note, you need a detailed post from a trusted influencer explaining why the sneaker fits well, showing the stitching, discussing the comfort. It's lower volume, but much higher trust.
And then there's Bilibili.
Bilibili is the hardest nut to crack for corporate brands. It started as an anime and gaming platform, but now it's the hub for culturally savvy youth. It has its own language, its own bullet comments culture.
Bullet comment.
It's a feature where user comments fly across the video screen in real time, overlaying the content. If you just dump a corporate TV commercial on Bilibili, you will get roasted in the bullet comments. The users will tear you apart for being inauthentic.
So you need to speak their dialect.
You need branded content that fits the subculture. You might need to make fun of yourself. You need to collaborate with Bilibili creators who know the tone. Yang's point is this. A shady agency just buys impressions on these apps. A good partner knows how to construct the message for each specific room.
And beyond the creative side, there's the data side. We talked about the fake ROI. How do you fix that? How do you verify you aren't being scammed?
Yang emphasizes attribution modeling that goes beyond vanity metrics. Clicks and impressions are easy to fake. You can buy 1 million clicks for a few $100s on the black market.
So what should we look at instead?
Real experts look at business health metrics. Are we seeing a lift in organic search volume for our brand name? Are repeat purchase rates going up? Are we seeing shifts in consumer sentiment surveys?
Things that are much harder to fake than a click.
Exactly. You have to connect the media investment to actual business reality, not just the metrics the platform provides. And Yang mentions that a good partner will actually identify risks for you.
This is the trust factor.
Yes. A partner who is playing the long game will tell you, hey, we could do this strategy for a quick win, but the traffic quality is questionable and it might hurt the brand next year. They're willing to say no.
They aren't yes men. And in a culture that often prioritizes saving face or pleasing the client, that candor is rare.
It's rare, but it's the only defense against the financial engineering trap.
And this brings us to the core conclusion of the deep dive. The real lesson here isn't just about media buying mechanics, it's about relationships.
Finding the right partner is critical in China. That is the bottom line.
It's not just about finding someone who speaks the language. It's about finding someone who isn't playing the arbitrage game.
Cheap traffic is easy to find. There are 1,000 agencies that will promise you the lowest rates and the best immediate ROI. But partners who truly understand brand value, who understand consumer psychology, and who are willing to protect your brand even if it means lower short-term numbers, those are rare.
So, bringing it back to Adidas, $2.8 billion. That loss wasn't just bad luck. It was the cost of picking the wrong partners and trusting the wrong metrics.
It was the price tag of prioritizing financial engineering over marketing fundamentals. And this is Coolio Yang's final warning. For companies entering China, understanding these dynamics isn't optional. It is essential for survival.
It is.
You cannot just throw money at the market and hope for the best, because the system is structurally designed to eat that money if you aren't paying attention.
It's a sobering reality check, but I think it's a necessary one. So as we wrap up this deep dive, we want to leave you with a question to ask yourself, whether you're working in China or just looking at your own marketing reports this week.
If your agency is retorting perfect ROI in a complex, messy market, ask yourself, are you seeing brilliant marketing, or are you just looking at creative accounting?
And are you building a brand, or are you just buying your own shoes?
A terrifying question to end on.
That's it for this deep dive into the hidden world of media buying. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you on the next one.